length of this churchyard. This principle, if this part is a right angle triangle, we should be able to calculate the distance of the churchyard.
Before I turn my yard into the green hill zone, let me explain what speed has to do with it. Because it's been kind of hard to literally measure the distance on the sidewalks in a public area, instead I'll be using speed and time to determine the distance of the sidewalks. And let me show you an example of how I'll do that.
Alright, so in this example, all of these trees are 1 meter apart from each other. So let's say that Keemstar reaches the first tree in 1 second. To determine his speed, we just need to divide the meters he covered by the time it took him to travel. So if we divide 1 meter by 1 second, we will get that Keemstar had a speed of 1 meter per second. So now, let's say that it takes Keemstar 5 seconds to run from the first tree to the 5th tree.
Life was hell.
No, I don't want to go!
That means that he traveled 5 meters in 5 seconds. Because we want to know the speed at which he traveled, we'll have to divide the meters by the seconds. And we would get that he traveled at a speed of 1 meter per second, which means that his speed is the exact same as the first example.
So now to determine my speed, what I'm going to do is measure a 10-meter line in my yard and walk that distance and see how long it takes. So now that I've measured the 10-meter line in my yard, all I have to do is walk it to see how long it takes. So after all that walking, I was able to determine that my speed was about 1 meter per second.
So now, how are we going to determine the distance of both sides of this strip?
So now let's get back to some primary school maths. When multiplying two fractions, we can cancel the numerator of either side with the opposing side's denominator. So in this example, we can cancel the thick omniment at the top left with the thick omniment at the bottom right. We can apply this exact same principle to the units for time and the units for speed. If we multiply the unit for speed, which is meters per second, times the unit for time, which is seconds over 1, we will get a value that only represents the distance.
So now that we knew how long it took us to walk on both sides of the churchyard, how do we determine the distance? Well, all we have to do is multiply those distances from part C with the speed that we got in part B. That allows us to have the values for A and B in the Pythagoras Theorem equation. So now all we have to do is square our A and B values and then add them together. It doesn't really matter which one of our values are A and B as long as the hypotenuse is C. We square both sides of the equation and we get the distance of the churchyard was 23.67 meters.